Voting is underway in Iran. The election will shape the country's future for at least a decade. Hardliners and moderate candidates are vying for seats in parliament and a separate assembly of experts which will choose the country's next supreme leader. The presidential election is set for next year. President Rouhani's reformist government is run by moderates, but other institutions, such as parliament, are still dominated by conservatives. The president's allies hope to build on Iran's nuclear deal, which led to the lifting of economic sanctions, and attract more investment. The US president has said that an end to the conflict in Syria is key to dismantling the so-called Islamic State, or ISIL. Barack Obama has vowed to prevail in the fight to destroy the group. He's addressing reporters ahead of a US-Russian ceasefire plan in Syria.
Destroy ISIL. More people are realizing that ISIL's not a caliphate, it's a crime ring. It's a criminal gang pretending to be a state, said one Syrian refugee. They turned out to be thieves, said another. So they're not winning over hearts and minds, and they're under severe pressure. But as we've said all along, the only way to deal with ISIL in a way that defeats them in a lasting way is to end the chaos and the civil war that has engulfed Syria.
Obama pointed out that ISIL and the al-Qaeda-linked Nusra Front will remain targets during the cessation of hostilities in Syria. That's because they were not part of the peace negotiations that took place earlier this month in Vienna.
The EU's migration system is on the point of complete breakdown, according to one top official. The European Commissioner for Migration issued the stark warning after a meeting between EU interior ministers.
In the next 10 days, we need tangible and clear results on the ground. Otherwise, there is a danger, there is a risk that the whole system will completely break down. There is no time for uncoordinated actions.
Ministers had been holding the talks in Brussels to try and bridge the divide inside the European Union over how to handle the crisis. We have to recover our ability to act, and that will only be possible when the European external border is protected. And I'll tell you frankly, if Greece stresses over and over again that it's not possible to protect the Greek border, we have to ask the question if it's possible that the external border of the Schengen area stays in Greece. Countries have disagreed over how to manage the massive influx of refugees. They've also rowed over recent border checks implemented by several member states.
Italy's Senate has voted to legally recognize civil unions as the last holdout in Western Europe took a compromise step to give some rights to same-sex couples after a bitter battle that lasted years. But gay and lesbian groups are angry because a provision allowing gay adoption was removed from the bill. We are outraged, angry, disappointed, she says. We can't believe that in 2016, in the Europe of rights, in a country like Italy, which is so proud to be part of this Europe, it is possible to make a law on civil unions without considering children, who should be protected as Italian citizens and discriminated minors. She says the country has lost a great opportunity to make the first great step towards civilization. The legislation was spurred on after the European Court of Human Rights condemned Italy last year for discriminating against gay people. The bill must still pass the lower chamber of deputies.
And even seduce members of that mosque.
Protesters gather outside the FBI building in Washington. They're angry about the Bureau's court order requiring Apple to unlock the encrypted iPhone of one of the San Bernardino killers.
All right. What do we want? Privacy.
And now the US tech giant has bitten back. Apple has asked a US court to overturn its ruling.
If we knew a way to get the information on the phone that we haven't already given, if we knew a way to do this that would not expose hundreds of millions of other people's issues, we would obviously do it.
The FBI says the request is linked to one iPhone and is in the interests of national security.
I love privacy, and when I hear corporations saying, we're going to take you to a world where no one can look at your stuff, part of me thinks, that's great, I don't want anybody looking at my stuff. But then I step back and say, you know, law enforcement, which I'm part of, really does save people's lives, rescue kids, rescue neighborhoods from terrorists, and we do that a whole lot through court orders that are search warrants, and we do it a whole lot through search warrants of mobile devices.
The iPhone in question was used by San Bernardino killer Rizwan Farouk. He and his wife went on a shooting rampage in December that killed 14 and wounded 22. Apple is being asked to help access encrypted information stored on Farouk's iPhone.
A local ISIL chief has been captured in the Libyan city of Sabratha, according to the Tripoli-based government, which is not internationally recognized. He was captured along with two of his aides 70 kilometers west of the capital. ISIL fighters had earlier occupied the city before being chased away by Libyan forces. Turkey has freed two prominent journalists after the country's top court ruled their detention violated their rights. Their arrest revived concern about media freedom in Turkey. They were detained after the publication of footage purporting to show the state intelligence agency helping send weapons to Syria. Ireland is voting in a general election today. Polls predict a political stalemate where no clear winner will emerge, and that could jeopardise the Irish economic recovery. Exit polls published early tomorrow will give us an idea of whether the country's leaders have done enough to hold on to power. The United States has presented a draft resolution to the UN Security Council on North Korea. It's the result of negotiations between the US and China and would tighten restrictions on Pyongyang after its latest nuclear test. The draft includes a total ban on arms sales to or from North Korea.